You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. I am Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. The show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency, and Extreme Exteriors. Before we get back to talking with our guest, Tony Smith from Roeder Smith Jayden, an attorney dealing with and helping clients deal and navigate through property insurance claims. He's got a great horror story he's going to tell us. I just want to let our listeners know we've got a free gift for you. We put together bi-monthly a newsletter called What's New. The topics that we cover on the show, we cover in further detail. People that are on the show are also guest contributors as well. It's yours free for the asking. It's a great resource. Call us at New Concepts during the week at 952-922-2500. Ask for Lori, and she'll make sure that you start receiving your copy either electronically or by mail. Well, welcome back, Tony. Now, you said you had a horror story for us.
I do, and I keep in mind that you as a property manager will probably cringe when I tell this story. So, but it goes to the importance of making sure that not just the association has insurance, but those homeowners who live in the association have their own policies in place, their own HO6s. I have right now I'm representing an individual homeowner in a condominium building. It's a 7 or 8 story building. She lives on the 2nd floor. One of the homeowners on the 4th floor decided they were going to be smart. They're going to get out of Minnesota for the winter, and they were going to go down to Arizona. Smart people do that. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but one of these days I will. But when they leave, these homeowners on the 4th floor forgot to lock their patio door, and the wind blew it open, and the cold weather got in and froze all the pipes in the building. So water leakage from this 4th floor unit all the way down the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st floors required an extensive amount of repairs throughout the building. Now, the association's policy, because it's a condominium building, picked up the actual structure itself, but the homeowners have to turn to their own insurance policies, their HO6s, for their contents. She didn't have an HO6.
She didn't have any at all.
Did not. So it puts her in a really bad position because now, if she's going to pursue anybody for recovery of this, she has to go after the insurance company for the folks on the 4th floor. Mm-hmm. But that's just a situation that could have been avoided, and she could have had all of her losses paid for if she would have just had an HO6.
Oh, no kidding. One of the things that we try to remind clients all the time is to every year when the master policy is renewed, we send out a notice saying to all homeowners, think about what you have. Do you have something that covers the difference in the deductible? Because in a claim, you might have to be responsible for that. And we ask people to really think through what they have. People think that, it sounds like a lot of money, but it doesn't go that far. I remember, Tony, a story a number of years ago, a woman on the eve of her wedding, she and her future husband then, her fiance, were bringing all of his belongings into the home because they were going to live in her townhome. And they had two pets, and so they were putting everything in. They did have an HO6 policy, but they ended up just piling a bunch of things in the kitchen, not realizing they had bumped and turned on the stove, went back to get some more, only to find that their house was on fire. And all of their the tuxedo, the wedding dress, wedding gifts, most of his belongings are now also in there with her, and the death of their 2 pets. It was just heartbreaking. There's not enough money to take care of something like that anyway. But then they found out that they had bare minimums, and it just wasn't enough. So, folks, with these kinds of stories, you need to make sure you have a proper assessment of what it costs to make sure that things can be replaced. And even so, some things, Tony, right, can never be replaced, like photos and certain...
Right. If you have a fire or a flood, it's heartbreaking to have individuals lose their wedding albums, photos of their kids when they're growing up. I just had a client who actually lost the urn with their father's ashes in it. And it's that kind of, you're never going to get your value for that back. You just don't.
That's
it's irreplaceable.
Well, let's go through this. Now, you had three things. Let's see if we can go through it here with what we have left in the show here today. The first thing you talked about was discovery of loss. Okay, and you said that let's tell people what's involved in this process. What do they have to know?
Sure. I think the one thing to know in a homeowners association is that damage to that association can be discovered by anybody in that association. That includes the unit owners, that includes the board members, the property manager, the caretakers. So if any one of those people discovers a loss, the best thing you can do is investigate and report it to the insurance company right away. Yeah. That's the real takeaway on that phase one.
And it's real important. There is a requirement that by law that you need to be able to share that right away, and you can't delay because there can be some very severe consequences, correct?
That's right. And that goes to phase two, making that claim to the insurance carrier. Under Minnesota law, the policyholders are actually required to give what's called immediate written notice. And courts have looked at what immediate means, and they've considered it to be within a reasonable time after that loss. So if you have a hailstorm, like last August we had that really bad hailstorm, there's no excuse for waiting until November or December to make that claim. If you know about the damage, make an investigation and make the claim right away. Don't delay. If you delay, chances are that the insurance company might have some grounds to deny the claim. Yeah. You want to avoid that. Don't give them an easy out.
And you're right. In a situation where you're talking about, let's say, severe hail, or wind, it's probably something that didn't just damage just your unit or your association, but something that came through the area. And I think of the storms we refer to them in May 1998. There was probably close to, in the Twin Cities area, almost 500,000 homes that were damaged as a result of that one event and storm. And if you're dealing with an insurance company that now has to deal with a lot of policies and a lot of insureds that they have in one area, they need to go through quickly. And the last thing that they want is for someone who's dragging their heels.
Well, that's very true. The other thing is the more time that passes by, the harder it is to sometimes attribute damage to one particular cause. So it just makes it harder for everybody to tie it to a specific event the more time goes by, because the question ends up being, well, what happened between then and now?
Okay. Well, let's talk about now the insurance company says, you know what, if an event takes place, as a policy holder, while the claim is pending, there are certain duties that you have. Can you go through for our listeners what some of those duties are that they should be prepared for?
I sure can. And we're talking now about once the claim has been turned over to the insurance company, the insurance policyholder has a couple of duties. Probably the first one is to keep the property protected from further damage. So if you've got a leaky roof, and while the insurance company is investigating, you want to make sure that roof doesn't keep leaking and cause further damage. So put a tarp over it, something like that. That's protecting the property from further damage. The second one, and this is the more important one, you have to cooperate with that insurance company while it's investigating the claim. And there's certain things that includes. For example, let the carrier look at the property. Give them information and documents that they ask you for. If they ask for a statement, you have to give them a statement. If they ask you to complete what's called a proof of loss form, you have to do that. If you don't do those things and it affects the insurance company's ability to process the claim, then the insurance company can deny it on the grounds that there was no cooperation. Oh. So again, that's one of those don't give them an easy out. Don't give them a reason to deny the claim when we can prevent that.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I found real interesting when you spoke a couple weeks ago, you talked about insurance companies. They ask for a lot of information, or can, and you need to cooperate. You need to fill things out. You want to be quick about it, be due diligent in returning things. But you also state that an insurance company can also ask for unreasonable information or documentation. Is that right?
That's true. I mean, some insurance companies, they like to, I don't know if like to is the right word, but sometimes they may overreach. They may ask for things that are unrelated to the claim.
Well,
and if you,
go
for
ahead.
example, let's assume there was, we'll go back to that August storm of last year. Some insurance companies might say, I want all of the maintenance records for that property from the beginning of time until today. Well, if your property is 25, 30 years old, what do those old records have to do with the storm? They really don't have anything to do with it. Or they may ask for statements from the property managers, folks like you, Gene. And if they do that, you're not covered necessarily by that policy. It depends, but you may not have a duty to appear. So if those folks on the insurance side of things look like they're asking for things that aren't related to the claim, that should raise a red flag. And at that point, you might want to talk to a lawyer and see if they can help you.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about this, the unreasonableness or unreasonable requests that can be made by an insurance company, but we need to take a break. So don't go away. There's much more on this topic, how to navigate through a property insurance claim, with attorney Tony Smith, who's with us today. So we will wrap up today's show after these messages.